There are moments in tennis when a young player stops looking like a prospect and suddenly starts looking like a problem for everyone else. And in Toronto, Eala has reached that moment. Just days after making history as the first Filipina to win a WTA Tour level singles title in Washington, Eala arrived at the National Bank Open carrying enormous momentum. She then battled past Katie McNally in 3 sets, 6-3, 5-7, 6-4, to reach the round of 16 for the first time in Toronto. Now comes a challenge that makes this story so compelling. Across the net is Belinda Bencic, a former National Bank Open champion, an Olympic gold medalist, and one of the most experienced players remaining in the draw. The tournament itself lists Bencic as the 2015 champion, while Eala entered Toronto as the number 25 seed. On paper, this looks like experience against momentum, but tennis isn't played on paper. Eala has already shown that she can survive pressure, absorb momentum swings, and keep fighting when a match starts slipping away. Against McNally, she even had to recover after losing a chance to serve out the match before closing the deciding set. And that's the detail that makes this matchup dangerous for Bencic, because Eala isn't simply riding confidence anymore. She's learning how to win when things go wrong. And with an entire Filipino fan base behind her in Toronto, the question is no longer whether Eala belongs on this stage. The question is how far this incredible run can actually go. Because if Eala can turn this opportunity against a former champion into another statement victory, Toronto could become the tournament where the rest of the tennis world finally realizes something. Eala isn't just having a breakthrough week. She's building a new level of expectation. And what happened next could determine whether this becomes another close battle or one of the biggest wins of her young career. The matchup itself was fascinating because both players arrived in Toronto from completely different directions. Eala had momentum on her side. Bencic had experience. And that difference became impossible to ignore once you looked at how each player reached this stage. Eala had already beaten Magdalena Frech and Jacqueline Christian before facing McNally. Then came the 3-set battle that tested her in a completely different way. McNally pushed her into uncomfortable territory. Eala couldn't simply dictate every point. Her serve rhythm dipped, the pressure increased, and suddenly the match became a test of whether the young Filipina could stay composed when her advantage disappeared. She did. After being broken while serving for match, Eala immediately responded in the deciding set and closed out the victory. That sequence may have been more important than the score itself, because winning when everything is going perfectly is one thing. Winning after momentum has turned against you is something else entirely. And that's exactly the kind of experience that can change a young player's confidence. But Bencic presented a completely different problem. The Swiss veteran had already survived a marathon against Taylor Townsend, a match lasting more than 3 hours. That meant Bencic wasn't entering this matchup simply as an experienced former champion. She was also coming in with a huge amount of physical and mental work already behind her, and that created the opening Eala needed to attack. The key wasn't going to be trying to out-Bencic Bencic. It was going to be speed. Eala needed to take time away from her opponent, attack early in rallies, and refuse to let Bencic settle into controlled baseline exchanges where her experience becomes such a weapon. That's where Eala's court intelligence could become so dangerous. She doesn't need to overpower an opponent on every single shot. Instead, she can construct points, change angles, and force her opponent to make decisions under pressure. And against a player coming off a marathon match, every extra decision matters. Every long rally matters. Every wide ball matters. Every sprint toward the corner matters. Because the longer Eala could keep the tempo high, the more the physical demands on Bencic could become a factor. But there was one enormous danger. Bencic had been in these situations before. She knew how to slow matches down. She knew how to absorb pressure. And she knew exactly what it takes to survive when a younger opponent starts playing with nothing to lose. That made the battle much more than a simple veteran versus rising star matchup. It was a test of whether Eala's new confidence could survive against someone capable of turning that confidence into frustration. And that was the moment when this match stopped being just another fourth-round contest. For Eala, it was a chance to prove that Washington wasn't a one-week miracle. It was the beginning of something much bigger. And for the Philippines, every point carried a little more weight, because this wasn't just about reaching another round. It was about showing the tennis world that Alex Eala had arrived. Now we get to the part of this matchup that makes Eala's rise so fascinating. Because the biggest change isn't simply that she's winning. It's how she's winning. The recent run has shown a player who can survive uncomfortable situations without abandoning her game. That's a crucial distinction. Young players can often produce spectacular tennis when they're free-flowing. The real test comes when the opponent changes the rhythm, attacks the weaknesses, and forces them to play one more ball under pressure. Eala has already shown signs that she can handle that battle. Her strength isn't based on overwhelming power alone. It's the combination of anticipation, court positioning, shot selection, and the ability to construct points patiently before suddenly changing direction. That becomes particularly important against Bencic. A player like Bencic can make you feel as though there is no obvious opening. She can redirect pace, control the geometry of the court, and turn an opponent's aggression against them. So Eala's challenge is not simply to hit harder. It's to make smarter decisions faster. If she can take the ball early, move Bencic from side to side, and attack before the Swiss veteran gets comfortable, the matchup changes completely. Suddenly, Bencic isn't controlling the rally. She's reacting to it. And that's where Eala's youth and momentum can become meaningful advantages. But there is another side to the equation. The pressure on Eala is enormous. After winning her first WTA singles title in Washington, expectations naturally rise. Every victory starts to look like confirmation, while every difficult moment can become a headline. That's dangerous territory for a player only 20 years old. The challenge now is psychological. Can Eala continue playing aggressively without feeling like she has to prove something on every single point? Because against an experienced opponent, impatience can be punished immediately. One rush forehand, one unnecessary second serve error, one low percentage attack, and suddenly a promising game becomes a break point for the opponent. That's why the most impressive version of Eala isn't necessarily the one hitting the biggest shots. It's the one that stays calm enough to recognize when the big shot is actually there. And if she can do that consistently, this run could mean far more than one tournament. It could signal the beginning of a completely different phase in her career. The Philippines already knows what Eala can mean to a nation that has been waiting for a major tennis breakthrough. Now the rest of the tennis world is getting a much closer look. And the fascinating question is whether this incredible momentum can survive the toughest test yet. Because against Bencic, talent alone won't be enough. And that's what makes this moment bigger than one match. Alex Eala has already taken a step that few expected at this stage of her career. She has gone from promising young player to WTA title winner, and now she is testing that new level against one of the most experienced players in the field. Whatever happens next, the lesson is clear. Eala has shown that she can handle pressure. She has shown that she can survive long matches. And perhaps most importantly, she has shown that difficult moments no longer automatically mean the match is slipping away. That is the foundation every great player needs. But the next step is even harder. It's consistency. One breakthrough tournament can capture the world's attention. Repeating that level over and over is what turns a breakthrough into a career. And that's why this Toronto run matters so much. Eala isn't simply chasing another victory. She's testing whether the level she discovered in Washington can travel with her. Can she keep that confidence when opponents know exactly who she is? Can she continue taking risks when the pressure becomes greater? Can she turn the support of an entire country into energy rather than expectation? Those questions will define the next stage of her journey. And somewhere inside all of that pressure is the opportunity that makes this story so exciting. Because tennis doesn't always announce the arrival of a new star with a warning. Sometimes it happens quietly. A difficult win here, a breakthrough title there, a young player surviving moments that once would have overwhelmed her. Then, suddenly, everyone looks up and realizes the same thing. She's no longer waiting for her moment. She's creating it. For Filipino tennis fans, this is a moment to celebrate. But for Eala herself, it should be viewed as something even more valuable, a starting point. The goal isn't to prove that one incredible week was real. The goal is to make this level normal. And if she can continue developing the same mental toughness, tactical intelligence, and confidence that have carried her through this run, the ceiling becomes increasingly difficult to predict. The National Bank Open may ultimately be remembered as another chapter in that journey. But perhaps the most important part of this story isn't whether Eala wins or loses one particular match. It's that the world is now watching her differently. The expectations are changing. The opponents are changing. And Alex Eala is changing with them. For the Philippines, that is the real reason to be proud. Because this isn't simply about one result. It's about watching a young Filipina step onto one of the biggest stages in tennis and refuse to look out of place. And if this is only the beginning, then the most exciting part of Alex Eala's story may still be ahead.